There we go. Something's happening, everybody. Welcome to Trending. You're with Andrew, not just an empty chair. There I am. Look at that. We'll try and balance this out as we go. Solo show for me today. So let's see if we can do this instead. Let's cut to me. Can we cut to me today? Doesn't look like we can. Looks like we're just cutting to an empty chair. How strange. But nevertheless, Trending is on its way in, not too far from now. So thank you for jumping on the live stream early. If you are here early, I am everywhere. I'm all things to all people today. Got my texts up in front of me here. Got my Facebook chat down this way. Got my notes. Got my stories. Got my cookies. Got my milk. Got my Viewmaster. Welcome along. Got to be good times. There I am up on the big screen as well. That's what I want to see. Thanks, Owen. And the rest of the socials team as well. Thanks, Charmaine. Thanks, Jaden. All the unsung heroes in the background making this whole thing work. How's your week going? Welcome to Trending. Gosh, going to go through some of the stories from the week that was, but can I just say, it is tropical in here right now. Goodness gracious me. Maybe I just shouldn't be wearing a jacket. Is this too fancy for this? What do you reckon? Do you like the jacket? Should I keep the jacket on? That's what you can vote on. While we warm things up today, once you've discovered the scream. There's a Freudian slip. Once you've discovered the stream, put a comment in the chat. Let me know if I should keep the jacket. Should I keep the jacket on this morning? You know what? I'm going to see if I can get YouTube up in front for myself as well. Ooh, look at this. See, what is with that? Every now and then, it's cutting to an empty chair. And the thing about the empty chair is that it's empty, which I don't think is the most interesting thing to look at. So, nevertheless, let's see if we can get Ringma's YouTube up in front of me as well. Is it even streaming on the YouTubes? Let's have a look. Ooh, might be. Here we go. Almost feel like, it's when you're trying to get technology up and running with your nana. But I am your nana right now. That's the t-shirt. That's the t-shirt that I need for this. Trending. I am your nana now. If you've just tuned in and wondering what on earth is going on and what is this guy blathering on about, many a person has wondered throughout the years, but in particular for the next hour and after 9 o'clock, we are going to be talking about the news stories from the last week, but the ones that were the most interesting to people just like you, people who went into Google to find out more information about stuff, because to me, that's the real test. Actions speak louder than words, right? And it's one thing to be given a bunch of news each day, but what's most relevant to you and your day-to-day, a very practical story, in fact, that we're going to find didn't turn up in the Google searches, but I can understand why it was very popular on one of our major news services to do with, well, practical things, shall we say. If you want to make your guesses, then you can, of course, as well. 8168 with the first word, Rima, if you want to text on in. But, of course, look, if you're watching the live stream right now, you can chat with me, can't you? You can jump into the chat, say hello. There it is. All right, I've got it all set up. So now I've got my chat, got my text, got my Facebook. Baby, we are ready to fly. Ready to fly today. Doing something different as well. We're going to head to Canada for one of our stories. Because when was the last time you found out what was going on in Canada? Been a while. I think we might have done a Canadian news story once upon a time, but I was just thinking about broadening our horizons, because often we get a bit of Aussie news and we get a little bit of, say, English news, bit of US news, but those seem to be the big three. Makes sense, I suppose, but surely Canada gets a mention, right? Though, to be honest, once you see what the number one story was for them, you might wonder, was it really worth it? Was it worth the effort? Still, we soldier on, nevertheless. What else can I tell you? What am I looking at here? Interesting lifestyle questions raised by some of our major news services this week. I don't know why I was looking out the window at the weather right now, just because it really has kicked up, man. It is way warmer. Do I lose the jacket? That's the question I have for you. Maybe I'll ask the people who join us later on in the stream as well. But we've got probably about 10 minutes, to be honest. Jumped on super early today. I wanted to make sure it was all working, because when it's only you, right? When it's only you, then not quite so fun. I'm going to do a bit of a test, actually, on something. So while you're here with me, let's just see how this works. Nice. And then if I come back to myself, hey, there we go. There we go. Can I get this any closer to myself? No. Okay, fine. Now I've broken it. Now it's fallen over. There we are. Okay. Just everybody calm down. Take a deep breath. It's all fine. Yeah. So, how's your week been? What's been happening? Tell me a story, man. We got time. We're in no rush today. Waiting for the rest of the nation to join us on Te Live stream. There's a wee bit of a lag, actually, isn't there? It's a wee bit of a lag, I'm noticing, on the old Facebook. Is the YouTube lagging as well, or are we okay? Let's have a look. Frank, I think YouTube is more current than Facebook. So if you are on Facebook and you want to know what I say a few seconds sooner, then maybe that's the place to jump across to. Does this tell me how many people are watching the stream here as well? So interesting, though. One person watching, that's probably just me. Good times. What else can I tell you? What else can I tell you about today? What is going on? There's not really much room for me to talk about tomato news, but that's been a huge thing in our household. What is going on with our tomato plants? And I lost a bet today. Well, not today, this week, where it was a little windy for us around about Wednesday, I want to say. And so when it was blowing around a bit, we've got these young, tender tomato plants. And I was determined that these are plants and they're supposed to be outdoors. I am not going outside to carry the tomato plants back up onto the balcony, you know, under the deck, under the veranda, under the thing, every time it gets a bit rainy and a bit windy. But my wife was much more concerned than I was. Dare I say much more maternal about the state of our tomato plants. She insisted, but I said no, and I won because I'm stronger than her. The problem I have was that she was right. And one of our plants, dare I say her favorite one, the biggest one, had a branch that broke because I left it out in the wind. So I'm consigning myself to the knowledge that from now on, I will be carrying tomato plants backwards and forwards. Extra person has joined us on the YouTube stream. Lovely to see. Otherwise, it's just me riffing away into the ether, isn't it? Unless you found this on the old video on demand. Can you, if you're watching this on the video on demand, can you just put like VOD in the chat? Because it'll come up and then we'll be able to check it for later. But it would be good to know, you know, who can watch this live and who just stumbles upon it later on. But I got to pace myself as well, you see, because it's just me talking for about the next, 50 minutes once everyone else joins us. So, you know, you got to factor these things in. Not 50, 7 minutes. What's that? 6 minutes from now? Something like that. Whew. It's all happening, ladies and gentlemen. Ba, 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 ba. Do you have a tea or a coffee with you today? What's your weapon of choice? I try not to over coffee in the morning. Very easy to do in this line of work. But I've already had 2 today. So generally that's all I'll have in the morning. I'll have one when I first get here, and then I'll have one at around about 6:40. So 2 coffees fairly close back to back. But then I generally won't have another one. If I do, maybe just after lunch. I'm not somebody who struggles to sleep after I've had tea or a coffee anyway, so I don't worry about that sort of stuff. But nevertheless, I just don't want to overdo it. Like, I enjoy coffee for what it is, and I feel bad for those people who are like coffee tragics, you know, they have to have like 6 cups a day to just feel alive. It's like an addict, you know, just to feel like a normal person. They've got to overindulge, shall we say. Itchy ear, excuse me. So don't want to become that guy. It also does make you a bit of a snob because we've got a coffee machine at our house now, and you're forever comparing other people's coffee to your own. Not good. Not good. But then again, I'd rather have that than be at the mercy of cafes where I have to pay even more per coffee anyway. So, yeah, no, first world problems. If you are in the chat, say hello. What do you think? Should I keep the jacket today? Do I keep the jacket or do I lose the jacket? Yes jacket, no jacket. That's what I want to see in the chat this morning before we get into the stories themselves, as the rest of our regular news plays out, of course. Because it does feel increasingly warm in here. I've set it to, I don't know if you'll be able to read this, 18 degrees it's supposed to be in here. There is no way it's 18 degrees in this room right now. And that's on cold, by the way. Cold setting, 18 degrees. Not even remotely chilly. Not even remotely. Oh, gosh, I think I will have to lose the jacket at this rate. Unless I hear an avalanche of opinions from you. But the jacket could be going. Do you have little tunes you sing to yourself? This is a big part of our household. Well, more me, really. My wife sings along. She humors me. But everything has a tune. Everything has a tune, an impromptu little theme song. It's how we entertain ourselves. with, a couple of ads and then we're in. Good times. 2 people on the YouTube stream. Hey, yo, Charmaine. Take it off if it's too warm in there. All right, Charmaine, thank you for looking out for me. It is a bit warm in here, so I am going to do that. Thank you for looking out for my well-being. I think I just needed one other person to say it was a good idea. So let's do that, shall we? Hang on. Woo. Hopefully you think it's also a nice shirt, by the way. So it's the full. Oh, where did that go? Oh, it is quite. It's quite resplendent, isn't it? It seems. I think it's actually a fairly matte blue when you're looking at the shirt in person, but on the cameras, I feel like I'm a little more saturated. Somebody's dialed up the contrast somewhat. Thanks, Charmaine. Always lovely to see you in our chat, by the way. I love to get your comments as we go along. So as a trending fan, I know you're one of our best supporters in the old live stream. So great to see you. Yes, it is a nice blue shirt, isn't it? Feels weird though if I put out the call to everyone else to tell me what they're wearing. Like, you know. What are we, about 2 minutes or so away today? Somebody's on the phone trying to call me, but there's no way I'm answering that call right now. Or do I try? I've never tried to take a call. Should we do that? Why don't we just do it? Let's just see what happens. See if anybody can hear anything. Nah, because they probably want something else. I don't want to make them feel awkward. I'm going to behave myself, mostly. How are we doing on everything? Bum, 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 bum. Good. Everything's where it's supposed to be. Love to see it. Yeah, no, somebody really is trying to phone through, though. Sorry, love. How are we doing on the YouTubes? We're up and rocking. We're doing okay. Good times being had by all. Right. Any guesses, by the way, about what our top stories might be? You can get your thoughts in. Let us know. 8168 first word Rima. Why am I doing that? Nobody can hear me on the regular radio right now. Just drop it in the chat for now. Drop it in the chat. What do you reckon is going to be the most popular story? Okay, look, we're about to play some weather, so I'm going to get ready on this side. We are going to go through the news stories from the week that was, find out what people were clicking on, what they were Googling for, and all that kind of good stuff. So it's always better for having you here. Thanks for being a pioneer of new technology. Joining us on the live stream. Let's get the rest of the radio crew in, shall we? And you'll find those words in Proverbs 21, verse 1.
Live on air and online. Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Welcome to Trending. It is our weekly news and current affairs show. Was on a Wednesday. We've moved to a Friday between 9 and 10. And thus, here we are together. The end of the week. Probably a better time to do it, right? As we review the news stories from the last week, but with a bit of a difference. If it's your first time here, hi to my, welcome along. We're going to look at these stories, yes, but how do we select the ones to cover? Well, you told us through your Google search behavior and your activity on the major news services from around the world. I started doing this show because I felt like there was a difference between the stories that we hear nightly, or maybe the big ones that we see when we go to our major news services, versus the ones that we really kind of care about. Now, sometimes it shows us that there's a really major issue that people want to know more information about, and it's just not being covered adequately. Conversely, sometimes we find that there are stories that you wouldn't think are the most significant in the world, but they capture our attention. Maybe we've just been clickbaited. You've been clickbaited this week? Have you gone down a bit of a YouTube rabbit warren, or maybe just a series of links trying to understand more about the world around us? This show is a recognition of that. We're going to take a look at the news stories that people went into Google to find out more information about. What were the most popular search terms in the country? What can we learn from those? And also, too, from around the world, get a bit of an international perspective. That's the mechanics of the show, but the real star is you. Have you ever watched a radio show before? If not, can I invite you to join us on the live stream, because you can see as well as hear. If you head along to reba.co.nz, you'll see there's links to our Facebook or YouTube pages, and we have our streams up right now. Massive shout out to Charmaine for kicking us off in the chat already today on the Facebook, but why don't you join her there and say hello? See what you think of my shirt today. Had a great convo with everybody today about whether or not it was a jacket or shirt day today. These are the hard-hitting issues we cover in our pre-show. But of course, we'll be asking you more stories about, more questions about the news stories that we cover today too. And I would love to get your thoughts on this. Are you surprised? Do you have different perspectives that maybe weren't covered in the news? Well, as I said, if you head to rema.co.nz, click through to either Facebook or YouTube, you'll be able to say hello there. And I'll be very pleased to follow along with you. We've got a few who have already joined us on the YouTube stream. I can see on the Facebook as well. We are ticking along, and thank you to everyone as well who's joined us the old-fashioned way, dare I say it, on the radio. And if at any time you got a thought that you want to share, get on the text as well, 8168 with the first word REMA. Oops, that was the wrong thing to press. And let us know what your thoughts are as we go into these stories. Let's start with a little old town in Canada.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Because I realize we haven't done some Canadian news before. We tend to be very big on, the US dominates news, and probably rightly so, right? It is the world superpower. And then we have, say, the UK, a lot of news we get via them, and also Australia. But it crossed my mind earlier in the day that we haven't really checked in on Canada. How's Canada doing? Have you asked yourself that question in the last little while? You wonder why Canada doesn't call you, but you don't ask how Canada is doing. So I thought, let's find out. Let's see what is going on in Canada. Yes, I know. What is going on in Canada? And the number one news story, having looked at this one now, makes me think perhaps it wasn't quite the right call. Perhaps Canada's caught up in the banalities of life, just like the rest of us are, because the number one news story on globalnews.ca is about a lawsuit for coffee machines.
If you've bought Keurig coffee pods in Canada in the past decade, you could get some money back. Keurig has agreed to a proposed $1.85 million settlement after claims the company misled customers about how recyclable its K-Cup pods really are. Canadians who purchased pods, machines, or brewers since June of 2016 could receive up to $50, depending on proof of purchase. The settlement still needs court approval. Once approved, claims forms will be available online.
Wow. $50 if you have proof of purchase. You've got to be kidding me. What on earth is that as a story? Really? That's your number one, by the way, on globalnews.ca. Having said that, if there was any coffee-related news in New Zealand, I could imagine we'd be all over it. It'd be a number one no matter where you go. But I love when they come up with these solutions that aren't solutions, right? Have you had this happen to you before? You know, like refund schemes, but you've got to jump through all these hoops. Like, what was the time period they said for that? If you bought a Keurig coffee pod in like the last 10 years, but you need to have proof of purchase. Do you have proof of purchase from 10 years ago? I actually want to know the answer to this question. Maybe you can put it in the chat. If you're on our live stream, go to rema.co.nz, click through to Facebook or to YouTube. Do you have any proof of purchase from like 10 years ago? If so, what is it? Because it's the kind of thing that it's like a solution without a solution, right? Oh yeah, we want to be seen to be doing the right thing, but not really. And then for the sake of $50, like, would you bother? It feels like a lot of bureaucratic hoops. So I get the feeling, even though maybe they've set aside $50 million for this particular thing that they might have been fined about, they might give away $5 million, maybe. I'd be shocked if it's even that much. I don't think I've got receipts from like the last week, let alone 10 years ago. So that's your number one in Canada right now. So maybe we don't have to ask again for another 10 years, right? But what is going on in Canada? They are all caught up on coffee pods today. But let me know. I'm going to have a wee chat at the text right now, 8168 with the first word, REMA. Also having a look over on the YouTube there. Very good. And what's happening on our Facebook stream. If you got some thoughts on this one, do you have any receipts from like 10 years ago? And if you do, what is on it? I will be shocked. I will be shocked today if anybody has got an item they can share with me.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Charmaine has got in touch on the Facebook live stream as well. I wonder what people think of President Trump's presidency so far. He's doing so well, but he needs to make a federal ban on abortion. I play he's brave and righteous enough to do it. Well, will Donald Trump be in our news this week? He seems to find a way to turn up regardless of what's going on. We've talked before on the show about how most news is either Trump or Trump adjacent. So it might not look like a Donald Trump story, but when you dive in, you realize there's a little Donald Trump in there lurking around in the background. So we'll see if there is more Donald Trump. But for now, let us jump back to the spin-off in New Zealand. And I found this quite a fascinating story. So the cost of being a full-time office worker with an array of side hustles. Oop, press that too much. There we go. We are on the live stream, by the way, and you might have noticed too, producer Josh away. So I am all things to all people. But do join along. Let me know what you think of the stories that we're covering today. Now we're going to talk about side hustles. So maybe you can let me know if you've got one. 8168 with the first word, Rima. Do you have a side hustle? A seed hustler. Do we need a fancy name for it? Probably not. A side hustle. Do you sell stuff on the go? Maybe you're one of those Facebook marketplace entrepreneurs. And well played to you if you're someone who's actually able to make that work as a side hustle, because it would drive me insane. The people you have to deal with on Facebook Marketplace. Whoo! But I digress. If you go to thespinoff.co.nz, great little website, this one, provides a pretty unique perspective on things. A little left-leaning for those of you who are concerned about that sort of thing. But I just think they have some great articles, and they really do dive into some interesting, complex social topics. Now, this is a series that they are doing called The Cost of Being a Full-Time Office Worker, with an array of side hustles. But they provide a bit of information here about what people are spending and how they're saving and that sort of stuff. They've given us a bit of an outline here of a 35-year-old female of Pākehā ethnicity. They're a full-time office worker. God bless. God bless all the full-time office workers. I say this as someone who's been a full-time office worker. If you got to pay the bills, you got to pay the bills. That is a noble enough pursuit, but I will say it is hard work turning up to an office day in, day out. They have a salary of $103,000, a rental income of $1,200 a week, assets of around $800,000. Pretty remarkable that the spin-off was able to get all this information from somebody. However, when they look at all of their rents and then mortgage payments and so on and so forth, they have now started to uncover a side hustle. So what is it? What is it that they are doing? Well, let's take a wee look here. I was going to say scrolling through here live on the stream. And you can read this along with me too, by the way. If you head to rima.co.nz, click through to the YouTube or Facebook Live pages. What is it that you do? What is it that you do? Come on, for goodness sake. This thing goes into all these different questions about how much a pair of shoes costs, what you spend on grooming and beauty. What is your side hustle? For goodness sake. Get to the point, for crying out loud. Are you telling me you're going to go through this whole article and not tell me what your side hustle is? Have I missed this? Have I missed it today? I thought we would expand on this together. We would go through the story and find out, what is the side hustle. Doesn't say. Doesn't say. A full-time office worker with an array of side hustles. It goes through, it talks about student loans, eating out, takeaways, workday lunches, savings, financial situations, transport, exercise, indulgences. What do you think's missing from the side hustle story? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. What a nonsense. I don't need to hear your financial sob stories. I'm sorry, but it's hard for everybody. Tell me what you're doing, for goodness sake. Tell me what you're doing, and then maybe we can have a wee bit more of a chat. So look, I'll need you to ride to the rescue on this, because this was a bit of a non-starter. Disappointed. Spin-off, do better, honestly. What is your side hustle? Do you have one? What are you doing to make a little extra money? My wife and I have a production company, which sounds very fancy, but with the advent of a lot of digital technology these days, actually very accessible to go out and shoot video content and audio and photography and so on. So we do a lot of stuff in the fashion and lifestyle sector, which is really the fruit of my wife's labors. You might be shocked to know that I am not actually a big name in the fashion and lifestyle sector in New Zealand. I know. Looking at this blue shirt, as I'm sure you are on the live stream right now, you think, how can this man not be a fashion icon in New Zealand? But no, I assure you, I ride my wife's coattails all the way to the bank on this one. So we shoot social media content for a lot of businesses in the fashion and lifestyle space. That is our side hustle. And it works pretty well alongside radio because, of course, this show is going to be done by 10 o'clock. I'll have the rest of the morning to go along and shoot stuff, meet people, shake hands, so on and so forth. And I just feel like it's something that's relatively common these days. I know there's plenty of people around here as well that have side hustles of selling things online. Even Kat, my co-host for the Rima Breakfast Show, sings with bands, and fortunately she gets paid to do so, which, by the way, if you manage to make money out of being a muso in New Zealand. Round of applause for you. Do you have a side hustle today? Can you be a little bit more specific than the spinoff.co.nz was, even though it was the number 2 article on their website, going into all this detail about having a side hustle and then not telling me what it was? The nerve.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
What else have we got today? This one is a little tragic. Could be a film, but might be a little sensitive for some. I've just realized I've had the story itself up on the screen for this whole time. I promise you I'm here. Hello, there we go. Okay, back to the article. This one, number 1 on CNN, but it's a news story about Australia. And I do love when the world comes together like this. You know, different stories bringing us together, but it is a sad one. Number 1 on CNN was this: elderly woman found dead on a tropical island after a cruise ship leaves without her. Oops. That might be the understatement of the year. Oops. There is a video to provide a little more detail here, though, interestingly enough, because it's an international collaboration, we're going to have to go to 7 News in Australia to find out more about this. So, the number 1 story on CNN, elderly woman found dead on a tropical island after a cruise ship leaves without her. Let's see what else we can discover about the story.
Elderly woman has been found dead on the Great Barrier Reef's luxury Lizard Island after she was allegedly left behind by a cruise ship. Rachel Baxter is following the story. Rachel, the woman was hiking on the island with a group from the Coral Adventurer.
Good afternoon, Anne. Yeah, that's right. Witnesses have told me the woman in her 80s was hiking an area called the Cook's Look on Saturday morning. This is a 4-kilometre track which is considered to be a very challenging route. She was with a group of other passengers from the Coral Adventurer, as you say, when she said she needed to stop and turn back. It's understood the group continued on the hike before returning to the ship and boarding the vessel before realising that she was not there. The cruise ship left the island and the woman wasn't reported missing until Saturday night. From there, a rescue chopper was sent to search for her, and 7 crew from the Coral Adventurer returned to scour the island. Sadly, her body was found just metres from the hiking trail on Sunday morning. I spoke to one tourist, Tracy Ayres, who was sailing nearby when she saw the search unfold.
I just feel terrible for the ship's crew and everybody here that witnessed it, and I feel so terrible for the hikers' family and friends. Such a beautiful place and such a tragedy.
It's understood the woman was travelling solo on the Coral Adventurer on a 60-day voyage, which would have cost between $80,000 to almost $100,000 for a premium room. Police say a report will be prepared for the coroner, and they are treating the death as sudden and non-suspicious. Anne?
Yikes, what a story. What a tragedy that is too. You go hiking on a luxury island. You do wonder if there's some details missing here, though, right? Because apparently, in other reports that I've read on this one, she did go missing, but they came back the same day. It wasn't like if you're imagining a Tom Hanks Castaway scenario, with the little volleyball that he talks to. That didn't happen. They literally left her on the island. We turned around, went back, and then sadly she'd already passed. So I imagine, maybe there was an accident or something that might have occurred, but. The problem you get with this kind of story as well is that you can tell there's lawsuits on the way, aren't there? There is lawsuits on the way, unless you had to sign some kind of waiver thing when you went on this trip that says, if we leave you on an island, then it's not our fault. But have you ever been left behind somewhere before? My brother has. Never forgotten this story. Poor little guy. We used to joke about how he had a cloaking device when we were kids because he'd be right there with you. And then suddenly you turn your back and gone. Where'd he go? Disappeared. And at one point, we were going to the same church as my Nana. This was before she moved in with us when she got to her 80s or so on. And so, there was us and our family car, and there was Nana and her car, and often we'd all, go back and have lunch together at Mum and Dad's place. So when my brother disappeared, we assumed, much like Jesus and Joseph, Mary and Joseph when it came to Jesus and that whole story, we assumed he was with her. She assumed he was with us. Turns out, my dear friends, it was option 3. He was with nobody. So we all disappeared, only to discover that he was not, in fact, with any of us. Turned around, came back, and yeah, there he still was. Didn't see the funny side for some reason as a child. Didn't see the funny side of being left behind. So have you had a story like that before? Or have you left somebody behind somewhere? I mean, in this case, obviously, tragic story that somebody lost their life, but gosh, it does happen, doesn't it? Maybe they needed a buddy system. You know, we laugh, don't we? We mock at schools. People doing these little things for the safety of children. But if you're going to go on a hiking trail, and they said too in that story that it was apparently quite a challenging track that they were on, maybe a buddy system would have helped, but I suppose it's cold comfort now, isn't it? That story was the #1 on CNN in the last week.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Really easy to understand why though, right? Like it's got that kind of tragic and also, what's the word? Unusual quality about it. There's just something about us, right? If it's an unusual kind of quirky story with a tragic angle, we love it. Human nature, man. We are, there's a person we like to believe we are. And then to me, one of the reasons why I love doing this show, you get to discover the people that we really are. We like to believe we're global citizens and we care about the big issues and we don't get distracted by silly stuff. And then we're like, ooh, quirky, unusual story that will never happen to anyone else ever again. Let's read that one. Most popular on CNN. I mean, it's not like CNN doesn't get a lot of web traffic too, is it? Welcome along. If you just joined us now, this is Trending. We're taking a look at the news stories from the week that was with a bit of a twist because these are the stories that were the most popular via your Google search engine, but also too on your major news websites. And so we're looking to share those and work our way through today. Coming back to New Zealand, those for this next one. And, well, a couple of months ago, we actually first shared a story about a rule change for residential sheds and garages coming into effect. Let's take a look at this one now, shall we? So we've got a picture here of Chris Pink and David Seymour talking about these changes, which means homeowners will be able to build small structures like garden sheds, sleepouts, and garages closer to their property boundaries without requiring building consent. So have you been looking forward to this? I was actually talking to Justin, the head of our digital team, the other day, and he was saying that basically they've got a summer project now around his place, getting a sleep out built up, because now, of course, it's going to be a lot easier. If I remember rightly, and this is trying to recall what Justin had told me, it basically meant that you can build within a metre of your boundary line and you don't have to take into account the height of the structure, because the distance from the structure to the wall also partly had to reflect the height of the structure that you were building. Blah, 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 blah. It meant that you could end up needing to be like 3 meters away from the fence, and most of us just don't have sections that are big enough for that kind of thing. So were you looking forward to this news? Do you have a sleep out in the go? Very popular. I've discovered in my neck of the woods, we've moved into a new suburb, and my wife and I often go for walks in the area. But boy, howdy, are there sleep outs. Woo! Sleep outs in abundance. You have one at your place? Is it for you? For somebody else? Did you build it and not tell the council? Well, now you don't have to worry about it. If you need a little more info about what this was about, I've actually found the original story from a few months ago outlining what this actually changes. Rule change for residential sheds and garages. It has come into effect. This was the #1 story on One News, but this is how stuff.co.nz decided to talk about it.
Might interest you to know that we had to get scissors. We were going to bring scissors from Wellington this morning, but then we realised that that'd be AVSEC, so we almost were stopped from cutting red tape by red tape, but we managed to get here. Yeah.
Oh, political humour.
But look, I just wanted to thank you for coming along. I particularly want to thank Alex for hosting us and for submitting to the red tape tip line, and especially Minister Pink, who I believe is making enormous leaps and bounds right across the building portfolio, whether it's crazy earthquake regulations that have held New Zealand back, getting more affordable building material, or right across the building sector. I think Chris Pink is doing a tremendous job to make life easier for Kiwis. And when we heard from Alex in our red tape tip line, a tiny irritant, not the biggest problem that New Zealand is faced by any stretch of the imagination, but something that's just so stupid the councils don't want to enforce it, people don't want to follow it, no one benefits, and yet it's a rule that you'd be surprised how many people are irritated by. We said to Chris, do you think we could do something about this? And being the kind of guy Chris is, cutting red tape right across the government, he said absolutely. So we wanted to bring you here, and we're very grateful for being hosted. elected to show that we do actually have a government that is committed to removing silly rules.
You know what's ironic about this? A news story that's talking about bureaucratic red tape and wasting people's time. We're a minute and 20 seconds in. He hasn't got to the point. Hasn't got to the point. Basically, it was what I told you, was that now it's easier to build stuff in your own backyard. That's basically it. There you go. Easier to build stuff in your own backyard. Is this going to change anything in your life? Do you have a sleep out planned? I can see a world where I might have a sleep out at some point. Problem is, I know I might have to hand in my passport for acknowledging this, but I don't care about having a backyard. As a New Zealander, that is offensive to many. And perhaps when my life and family situation changes and I need a room for little people to run around, then maybe I'll want a backyard. But for now, don't care. Therefore, I have nowhere to put said sleep out. Actually, producer Josh, who was away today because he's getting ready to move house, his new place, got a sleep out there as well. So all manner of headaches trying to get that thing sorted, just quietly. Do I care about this? Not so much, but I can understand homeowners who have always wanted to build in their own backyard being super excited. That was the #1 story on onenews.co.nz in the last week. Rule changes for residential sheds and garages. Well, those changes have now come into effect.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
And then the last of our major news services around the world before we dive into our Google searches on stuff.co.nz. Another housing-related one. This house could not be sold. It was listed anyway, and now there's a complaint. Let's take a look, shall we? There we go. Pressing buttons here, everyone. For those who are watching on the live stream, thank you for joining me today. But here's the short version. An Auckland home was put up for sale despite a court order saying it couldn't be sold, and now the real estate authority is considering a complaint as a messy business partnership turns into a legal and personal feud. See, now that makes sense to me. That makes sense to me because I was trying to think, like, why do we care about this story? There's not really a heck of a lot to it, is there? This was #1 on stuff.co.nz. Interestingly, though, it was #1 yesterday. Looked again today, nowhere to be seen. What a fickle people we are. A house that could not be sold, it was listed anyway. So there's a little bit of intrigue, I suppose, that hooked people in. That was what they were all clicking on and reading about. And then you see personal feud in the opening paragraph. Well done, Isaac Davison. Was that you who wrote the opening paragraph on that, or was that the editor? This is the other thing they often talk about in journalistic circles, right, that they don't get to choose their headlines. And I wonder if they had much to do with the opening paragraph here, because otherwise it's fairly matter-of-fact. A 2-bedroom Glen Innes property listed for sale, near new, spacious, stylish townhouse, blah, 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 was not supposed to be sold, and then it was. So that was what captured people's attention. Are you riveted by the story? Would you like to know more about houses that shouldn't be sold but then were? You can let me know, or otherwise say hello. Let me know what else you think should be in our news for this week that might have been missed. Is there a story that's missing in action? Jump into the chat. Head to rema.co.nz. Click through to either the YouTube or Facebook live streams, and then say hello. Let us know what you think about the news stories that the rest of the country has been sharing their thoughts on. Otherwise, of course, just send us a text the old-fashioned way, 8168 with the first word, Rema. And, well, let's move on to the next of our trending stories for the week.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
And so, a house of dynamite. Sound like anywhere that you know, maybe a euphemism for your place. A lot of people with short fuses, big tempers perhaps. No, my friend, this is a new Netflix series coming in on the Google searches at number 19, because, of course, we're always looking for a new Netflix series to watch, aren't we not? Our House of Dynamite. Stars Idris Elba, which is pretty cool. He's one of those guys who, whenever you see certain names, you're like, yes, I want to know more. Other people, you're like, I'll give that a hard pass. Also, Rebecca Ferguson, who you might know best from the Mission Impossible movies. I was going to give you a spoiler about one of the most recent ones with her in it, but I'm not going to, so never you mind. Also, Gabriel Basso, Jared Harris, Tracy Lettuce, Anthony Ramos. I mean, let's be honest, at this point, we don't know who these people are. I don't know, maybe you know who they are, I don't know who they are. But what is it about this? Number 19 in the country. I'm going to play the official trailer for you in just a moment, but this could be a perfect time for you to jump onto the live stream because I'll provide a running commentary where I can. But a trailer does not translate particularly well over the radio. Nevertheless, what else are we going to do? Right? There'll probably be, I'm going to say before I even play this, is going to be some very tense music. Going to be some tense music that's going to play. And a few punchy sentences about, gosh, House of Dynamite. I don't even know what it's about. We're going to find out together. So, For your listening pleasure or viewing pleasure, if you join us on the live stream, go to rima.co.nz, click through to either the Facebook Live or YouTube pages, and let's find out about the House of Dynamite.
I always thought just being ready is the point. That keeps the villain in check. Keeps the world straight. They see how prepared we are.
So for those of you who are listening along, by the way, we're getting a lot of images of like control rooms. So think about like, Houston, we have a problem. Like, people with monitors looking very serious with maps, and now looking at a isolated military base, perhaps.
Oh, it starts a nuclear war.
ICBM detected.
Approximately 3 minutes ago, we detected an ICBM over the Pacific. Current flight trajectory is consistent with impact somewhere in the continental United States.
Have we seen DEFCON 2 before? No.
Is this real?
Stratcom is asking for launch instructions right now. I'm gonna need you to breathe.
We were talking about hitting a bullet with a bullet.
So it's a fucking coin toss? That's what $50 billion buys us?
Language.
Get in the car and just start driving.
If we do not take steps to neutralize our enemies now, we will lose our window to do so.
If we get this wrong, none of us are going to be alive tomorrow.
There is no plan B.
We did everything right? We did every fucking thing.
None of this makes sense. Making all these bombs and all these plans. The walls are just ready to blow.
Ooh, tense. So if you feel like you don't have enough anxiety in your lives, then A House of Dynamite could be the thing for you. Apparently it's in theaters and in Netflix, which seems like a bold move. If you're going to be in theaters as well as Netflix, I think you basically just acknowledged you're not going to be getting a lot in theaters, right? So that's the premise. An ICBM flying towards the US. What are we going to do? Well, you'll have to watch the show to find out. Are you keen to watch it? A House of Dynamite? Sounds interesting. Are you somebody, by the way, this is a bit of a side note, but I would love to actually get your answers on this. 8168 with the first word REMA if you want to text them in, or go to rema.co.nz and either click through to the YouTube or Facebook live streams. Where do you go when you want to get a movie review on something? Do you have any trusted sources on this kind of stuff? Because your big ones I think of are Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb, Internet Movie Database. The thing I like about Rotten Tomatoes is that's the one that's got the reviewer score and the audience score. And every now and then you get something that's got like a highly contrasted score. Like the reviewers hate it and the audience loves it. Or vice versa. Something tends to be something really artistic, and the critics are like, "Oh yes, this is a fantastic commentary on the state of mankind." Blah 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 blah. It is something or other, and everyone's like, "What on earth is this movie?" And then 80% plus from the critics, and then 20% from the audience, or vice versa. So that's what my wife and I tend to do. If there's a movie we want to watch, we're thinking about renting or whatever it is, then we will go to Rotten Tomatoes and then we'll go, all right, what's a movie that's got a good audience score and a relatively good critic score, like, 70 plus, something like that. And then we'll go with that. When in doubt, of course, I will take a 90% audience, 50% critic over the alternative. You know what I mean? If 90% of critics like it, but only 50% of the audience like it, get in the bin. Not going to watch it. No, not interested, get stuffed. However, if 90% of the audience like it and the critics are like, what? What is this lowbrow nonsense? No Oscars for you. I'll be like, I don't care what you think. I'm going to go with the people. Thanks very much. What is it for you? Where do you go when you want to watch a movie and trying to figure out if it's any good? Obviously, you can watch the trailer. They can be a bit misleading, though. Where do you go? Do you have a website of choice? Do you have a friend of choice? Maybe somebody who's that reliable perspective on the movies that you can go to. Let me know this morning. 8168 with the first word REMA. If you want to send me a text or go to rema.co.nz, click through to either the Facebook or YouTube pages and jump into the chat and let us know when you have a movie to review, where do you go?
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
So many buttons to press. If you just joined me, Josh is away today because he's moving house. So he's got to get his house in order, or at least his old house in order. So I am pressing many things. I think I'm doing all right. Out of 10, I'd give myself maybe probably about a 6.5 really. Had a few occasions where I just left up the article on the live stream. And as nice as the article is, it gets in the way of me connecting with you. So now that my face is back front and center, I promise you it's not just a massive ego thing. Let's continue to march through the news stories. And this one I thought was quite amusing. We tend to only try and cover one sporting story per week. And in this case, it's number 4 and number 9 this week. Are you a rugby league fan? Have you been driving around your neighborhood and seeing a lot of flags flying? I got to say I have. And huge flags at that. Like I saw a kid riding their bike the other day with an enormous Samoan flag that was bigger than him and the bike. I kid you not. That flag would have been 1.5 meters high and then, maybe 3 meters long? Huge thing. But there they were, representing. And I kept thinking there must be some kind of a sporting event going on. Well, if you take a look at the searches over the last week, this is interesting. Tonga versus Samoa came in at number 4 this week on the Google searches. However, Samoa versus Tonga came in at number 9. What do you make of that? Hey? What do you make of that? Tonga versus Samoa, Samoa versus Tonga. Well, it turns out Tonga, do we have a bigger Tongan population in New Zealand than Samoan? That would surprise me. I would have thought we had more Samoans in New Zealand. Or maybe Samoans just weren't feeling it regarding their league team. It's the Pacific Championships. That's what's been going on. And so that will be the reason why all those searches are rolling through right now. Going to play a little bit of a clip for you from the NRL. Thankfully, there is a highlight that's only about 4 minutes long if you want to watch the whole thing. If you go to YouTube, otherwise I'll see if I can provide a running commentary for those who are just listening along via the wireless. Was this a match that you were following? Are you following the Pacific Championships today? 8168 with the first word, Rema, or again, jump on the chat, go to rema.co.nz, click through to YouTube or Facebook. Let's see why Tonga versus Samoa, or indeed Samoa versus Tonga, was the number 4 and number 9 story this week.
Enjoy this one, folks, wherever you're watching, right around Australia, right around the world. International Rugby League. And here's the first carry from To'o.
Yeah, he reeled out that one. Here's a loose ball there. Itoi Kamanu knocked backwards. Todd Smith. Well, there might be an issue here, but Itoi Kamanu.
And here's the HIA for Stefano Itoi Kamanu. 5 away from the line. Yumalu! Oh, he almost got there. He's centimetres short. Tuivasa-Sheck, it's the last. Paulo, long pass, Talo, tip on. Taulagi stays alive. Here we go, Aristotaville.
Oh, it's unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable. Look at the World League there. Lots of ball passing around. Guy gets tangled, falls on the ground, sore head. Oh, goodness me. That's it, mate. So there you go. Tonga versus Samoa. Tonga versus Samoa. Apparently, Samoa won quite handily, by the way. What was the final score? Let's have a look. Skipping ahead. Yikes. 34-0. Ouch. What are you, a league? What are you, a Kiwis fan now? No, actually, we don't get that wasted anymore. Do you remember we used to get smashed all the time as the Kiwis? I'm a bit of a fair weather sports follower these days. I used to get more into it, but, times and priorities change. But gosh, that was always the hard thing about following the Kiwis, man. They're always due to get just absolutely pumped at least once a year. And then you'd have this game where we'd play against Aussie and it would go pretty well. We might even get a win and be like, oh my goodness, it's amazing. And then like the next match we'd lose like 47-0 or something. So, I don't know. Cheer up, Tonga. We know how you feel. Well done, Samoa. There you go. Your number 4 and number 9 story in the last week. Tonga versus Samoa. Samoa versus Tonga. Let's push towards our top 3 stories.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
So now we talk about the weather. You probably suspected this was going to be in there somewhere. But where would it land? Hurricane Melissa. We had covered that earlier this week on the Rema Breakfast Show. We spoke to some of the guys from Convoy of Hope who will be delivering medical aid and also working with local churches there to meet the needs of those Caribbean nations that were affected by Hurricane Melissa. That story, though, Hurricane Melissa, number 3. Number 3 in the country in the last week was not enough to get to number 1, even though our own weather woes tend to get to number 1 quite handily. What do we make of all this? Good opportunity for you to jump onto the live stream right now, because I'm going to play a clip from, from stuff.co.nz, but this is various footage from the places that are being affected by the storm right now. And of course, you're immediately reminded that the building codes are a little different in the Caribbean, shall we say. A lot of poorer communities, which amplifies their vulnerability to big storms like this. So let's take a look at this right now. If you do want to watch along with me, you still got a few moments. Go to rema.co.nz, click through to the either Facebook or YouTube pages, and you'll be able to see the live stream there so you can watch this with me and look at the impact of Hurricane Melissa. So first up, let's see what it looked like it was doing on the ground here. Oh, goodness me, that's pretty harsh stuff. Yeah, you can see communities with a lot of corrugated iron roofing. So it's all being torn off. I mean, you can barely see a centimetre in front of your face right now to look at this footage. Plants being blown around all over the place. Wonder if they were tomato plants. They grow a lot of tomatoes in the Caribbean? I digress. And now some of the aftermath as well. These communities underwater now, cut off from vital food and supplies. And so many, of course, dependent on places like Convoy of Hope to get those necessities of life, shall we say, dropped off. So what more can we learn about this? Well, let's now take a look at the story on One News. Hurricane Melissa. You know, I just realized too, I didn't actually play that video clip for everyone to see. Oops, going to have to dock myself a point there, 5 out of 10. My apologies. For those of you who are on the live stream right now, I played that clip out. I could play the audio for everybody, but the rest of you had to just imagine what it looked like. Oops, we live, we learn, we stumble, and we move on. So Hurricane Melissa left dozens dead and widespread destruction across Cuba, Haiti, and Jamaica, where roofless homes, toppled utility poles, and waterlogged furniture dominated the landscape overnight. And so we have a photo on One News as well of the aftermath of what's going on there. A landslide blocked the main roads of Santa Cruz in Jamaica's St. Elizabeth Parish, where the streets were reduced to mud pits. Residents swept water from their homes as they tried to salvage belongings. Winds ripped off part of the roof at a high school, a designated public shelter. I've never seen anything like this before in all my years living here, said resident Jennifer Small. Now, Melissa made landfall on Wednesday as Jamaica categorized it was a Category 5 storm with top winds of 295 kilometers an hour, one of the strongest Atlantic hurricanes on record, before weakening, then moving on to Cuba. Even countries outside the direct path of the massive storm felt its devastating effects. So right now, we know that at least 40 people have died across Haiti, and 20 of those deaths were reported in the southern coastal town of Petit Goave. So that is the impact on life, but of course, it's going to take a lot of aid. We know in New Zealand what happens when these big storms rip through the place and the lasting damage that they can do to communities too. So if you do want to support convoyofhope.org.au, that would be a place to go if you want to find out how they're trying to meet those needs too. But there you have it. Hurricane Melissa, number 3 in your Google search terms in New Zealand in the last week.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
And now to the number 1 story, according to Google, in the last week. And I thought maybe I'd missed an announcement about interest rates, because ANZ was your number 1 news story in the country. ANZ had some issues, shall we say, with their banking apps. What was going on? Well, let's take a look at this one together. If you go to the New Zealand Herald, ANZ Bank mobile application, internet banking not working. Thousands report Go Money outage on Down Detector. Down Detector? Is this a thing? What is Down Detector? Are you learning this with me right now? Down Detector. Should we Google this as well while we're at it? Down Detector. Does it just tell you when different websites aren't working? Live Googling, guys. Let's do it. Down Detector. Oh, there we go. Okay. Down Detector.co.nz. A real-time problem and outage monitor. Well, I've learned something new today. Down Detector is a thing. There's a joke I was going to make, but I'm not going to do that because I am well behaved at all times. Were you affected by this, by the way? So there's an article on the New Zealand Herald, but this was very popular on One News as well, Radio New Zealand. Anyone needing to make urgent payments should phone the bank's contact centre on 0800 269 296, a spokesperson told the Herald. Mind you, this was, 29th of October, a couple of days ago. It's all been sorted since then. But yes, it was temporarily unavailable. Blah, 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 blah. What's going on with my banking? You know, they might have cracked how to get New Zealanders to save more. Just crash the banking apps. Can't spend if you've got no money, can you? But that was it. That was it. That was your number one news story. As simple as that. These are always nothing stories as well because, you know, I'm reading through this and it's saying how, yes, the ATMs, FBOS and PayWave are working fine. Well, maybe it's not a good savings plan after all. However, if you tried to use the banking app, it didn't work. And it doesn't really tell you anything. It just says it's not working. And it'll work later. And then it does. And we go, okay. Did you learn anything worthwhile out of that? Did it teach you anything about the world that you live in? What are you going to do with that information? I often ask myself that question too when I read news stories. It's my way of filtering out things so that I don't just take on board information that's no help. Like once I've got that info, once I've read that headline, what happens now? What happens now? Not a heck of a lot. So we just kind of let this information flow past and not worry. It does make you freak out though if you are trying to access it and you can't and you think maybe you've been hacked. You ever had that, you know, when your banking apps don't work and you're like, have I been hacked? Am I going to log in and find out all my money's gone? I needed those $12. Number one story for the week. So that's it. That's your number one story. And we've still got a few minutes to spend together today. So I thought, why don't we just take a look at what's trending today? Or with the few minutes that we have, are there any stories that you thought maybe would pop up that we haven't actually got around to? 8168 with the first word. Rima, if you want to send me a text right now on the show solo today. So always appreciate hearing from you guys. Makes the time go. So much more exciting to have a conversation with you as well. 8168 with the first word, Rima. Are there any stories that you would have expected to hear more about, but they didn't show up? I can try and track them down for you in the time that we have left today and see what happened there. Also, of course, if you're on the live chat, you can jump in there too. Go to rima.co.nz, click through on the Facebook or YouTube links, and you'll see we've got a live stream up running there. So while you're getting in touch with me and letting me know the stories that you thought were important for this week, let me see what I can find for you about the other Google trends from the week that's been, or at least what's popular today, say in the last 24 hours. Should we have a wee look? What do you reckon? I need on hold music for this, don't I? Da 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 bum bum da 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 dum da 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 da. Oh, come on then. Google Trends in New Zealand. Let's see what's going on. Here we go. In the past day, Prince Andrew. Oh, there is a name that you don't want to see popping up anywhere. I used to like that there was a Prince Andrew. Now I have mixed feelings about it. Can you guess why? Prince Andrew being a popular search term. Goodness me, I bet his own family are sick of hearing about him. 1,000 searches for Prince Andrew. Has he done something else? Has he done something else in the last week? Is that why? What's going on with Prince Andrew? Let's have a look, shall we? A full statement from Buckingham Palace. Goodness me. Maybe we should take we take a look at this now? Let's take a look at this now, shall we? Buckingham Palace full statement. This is on the BBC. We're going to bring this up on the old live feed. Let's have a look. What's going on? They have announced that Prince Andrew is to lose his prince title and will be leaving his Royal Lodge home in Windsor. Yikes. So now he's just going to be Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. He gave up his other royal titles earlier this month, including the Duke of York, after more questions and allegations on his private life. Woo, goodness me. The palace said the former prince has agreed to leave the Royal Lodge as his links to pedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein continue to cause controversy. I mean, I bet they did. Goodness me. The decision was made due to serious lapses in Andrew's judgment. You think? And he continues to deny the accusations against him. Yeah. All right, here's the official statement that is emerging today, only in the last hour, in fact, more than 1,000 searches on this particular topic. The statement from Buckingham Palace in full, and if you're on the live stream, we can read this together. Should I do it in a voice? Why not? You're going to make your own fun, right? The statement from Buckingham Palace in full. His Majesty has today initiated a formal process to remove the style, titles and honours of Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. His lease on Royal Lodge has to date provided him with legal protection to continue in residence. Formal notice has now been served to surrender the lease, and he will move to alternative private accommodation. These censures are deemed necessary, notwithstanding the fact that he continues to deny the allegations against him. Their Majesties wish to make it clear that their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors of any and all forms of abuse. See you later, Andy. Dear, oh dear. Dear, oh dear. Talk about being handed every opportunity and absolutely squandering a lot of it. Tis a tragedy, but nevertheless, now just going to be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Yikes. He's going to get some unfortunate nickname too, isn't he? More than likely. What else have we got going on right now? Having a look through at the most popular search terms in the country in the last week, or at least in the last day. Canva. Why on earth is Canva coming in as the number one? I don't think that's anything to do with people wanting to know more about it. I just think it's people who need to use Canva for their work. It's like it's kind of like Photoshop, like a web-based Photoshop. That's my non-technical explanation of all that one. How's this though? A name that you never knew you didn't know? Ryan Pappenhuisen. Any guesses? Ryan Pappenhuisen. He's been granted an immediate release from the Melbourne Storm. So there you have it. He's a league player. He is a league player and not for the Storm much longer. Also measles starting to emerge in the last 11 hours. There's actually been a few stories on this one too that we covered during the show, the regular Rima Breakfast show, about how there's been a measles outbreak. And the measles spread modelling considers 150 cases a week possible. Now it fits it again to the wider discussion around immunisation and so on. It'll be a long time before we bounce back from the COVID fiasco, won't it? Really undermined a lot of people's confidence in the importance of vaccination, immunisation. I can understand how a lot of people are just not going to worry about it for their kids anymore. Maybe feeling like the risks outweigh the benefits. And I think it was Auckland Grammar School. There was a story about earlier on today having closed up shop because somebody with measles was reported to have visited. This is a bit niche, but I will ask about this. Dodgers versus Blue Jays. Anyone been following the Major League Baseball? It's not really a sport that we get too excited about in New Zealand, is it? But that one, around 500 searches on that front. And also, another Kiwi name, this one I do know, finally, Melanie Lynskey. Melanie Lynskey, New Zealand actress Melanie Lynskey, first made her name in, oh gosh, Beautiful Creatures. Is that what it was called? It was a Peter Jackson movie. Anyway, she has called for criminal charges over Pike River. How do you feel about celebrities calling for criminal action? I have mixed feelings about this sort of stuff. She's entitled to her opinion on things, but I don't know, man. Celebrities giving you opinions on stuff. I don't know. I struggle. But that is it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for keeping me company today too. Solo show this morning, going through the news stories that were the most popular in the country. ANZ took out the title today with Hurricane Melissa coming in at number 3, and then a bunch of other sport nonsense going on. So thanks for being a part of the show. Great to have you company. Great to see you in the chat today. Great to see you on the YouTube as well, letting me know your thoughts on different things. So we're going to march on with our morning. And good news is too, I was going to say Josh is going to be back next week, but that's not true because I'm away next week and so is he. So we're going to take a week off. Training will be back the following week. But it's always so good to have you with us as well. Thank you so much for being part of the live stream. Thanks for listening out to the show. We'll see you again in a fortnight. I've been Andrew Curtis. This has been Trending, and you have been spectacular.